Okay, let's get into this. Imagine for a second being truly alone,
Right.
not just, physically isolated, but completely adrift. Vast ocean, no control,
Terrifying.
no phone, no land in sight, just you and the elements. It's a nightmare scenario, isn't it?
It really is.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a story where that nightmare became terrifyingly real for a fisherman, John Aldridge.
But it's more than just the nightmare part.
Exactly. Crucially, it's also this incredible story of human resilience, and a whole community rallying against, well, pretty much impossible odds.
Yeah, and our main source for this deep dive is the book A Speck in the Sea, a story of survival and rescue.
Great book.
It really is. It details John Aldridge's harrowing experience after he fell overboard off Montauk, New York. And just as importantly, the huge complex effort to find him and bring him home.
So our mission today,
Our mission, yes, is to go through this amazing account. We want to pull out those key moments, the, surprising facts, the insights that make it so compelling.
we really want to get at what it takes to survive something like that.
Exactly. What does it take to survive in the open ocean against those kinds of odds? And also, how does a modern rescue operation actually work? The mix of technology and just pure human effort.
And you mentioned the setting, Montauk, New York. If you've been there in the summer, you might just think beaches, parties.
The whole Hamptons overflow scene.
Right. But Montauk has this other side, this deep history rooted in fishing. It's the real Montauk, some would say.
And that's where this story begins, with John Aldridge and Anthony Sosinski. Lifelong friends, business partners, owners of the fishing vessel Anna Mary.
Montauk itself, its history is fascinating, tied to the geography.
Totally. It started as this freshwater lake, the Great Lake, carved by glaciers, like incredibly close to the ocean but separate.
Until the early 20th century, right? This big project, Carl Fisher's vision.
Yeah, dredge the lake, cut channels to the ocean, create a massive harbor.
And even though things like the 29 crash slowed it down.
It fundamentally changed the place. Montauk Harbor became the main port for the East End. It was even a Navy station in World War II.
And now, home to the Coast Guard station, which becomes obviously very important later.
Hugely important. And today, it's New York's premier fishing port, biggest commercial and recreational fleets in the state.
But the commercial fleet itself is surprisingly small, isn't it?
Yeah, really tight-knit. Only about 40 vessels. They go after specific things, tilefish, squid, lobster, scallops, that kind of stuff.
And Anna Mary, she's one of the lobster boats.
One of a handful, yeah. But they do things differently. They fish way offshore, often totally out of sight of land.
Right, she's a 44-footer, built back in '83. John and Anthony bought her hull and permit in 2003 and rebuilt her.
And their operation, it's intense. Long trips, sometimes twice, even 3 times a week, April through December.
Hauling hundreds of traps each time.
Over 400 tracks per trip. And constant repair work on, 800 traps total. It's relentless physical work, not a desk job.
Definitely not. And John and Anthony, they grew up together. Oakdale, Long Island.
Yeah, childhood friends. But different personalities, the book points out. Anthony's like the mayor, quick, outgoing. Johnny's quieter, slower paced, but very strong-minded.
But they shared that fishing passion early on.
Totally. Influenced partly by Anthony's dad, who was in the Coast Guard and worked weekends on Montauk fishing charters.
So Anthony got into it young.
Yeah, high school. Worked weekends, even lived on a houseboat in the harbor one summer as a deckhand. Became the youngest captain running charters at just 21.
And there's that other story about Anthony from '94. Really tells you something about his focus.
Oh, yeah. When his daughters disappeared with his ex-wife after they split, he searched for months, feeling completely helpless.
Until he tracked them down in California.
Pure determination. It shows you when something's critical, he is laser-focused, relentless. That definitely comes into play later.
Yeah. And Johnny's path was a bit different at first.
Right. Didn't finish college, went into construction for a bit, steady paycheck.
Then he partnered up with Al Schaffer on the Sidewinder.
An inshore lobster boat, yeah. And eventually, he and Anthony teamed up on the Sidewinder, and then they bought the Anna Mary together in 2003.
And you mentioned the value of having 2 boats.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Crucial for a fishing operation. First, backup. If one boat breaks down, you're not dead in the water business-wise.
Makes sense.
And second, it lets you fish different areas, state waters, federal waters.
Which operate under different rules, right? The Magnuson Act comes in here?
Exactly. That's the big federal law managing U.S. fisheries. It requires regulators to, measure fish stocks and step in if they think they're dwindling. Usually the assumption is overfishing.
But the industry doesn't always agree with that assumption?
No, guys like Johnny and Anthony, they've disputed that since the act came in.
Hmm.
They question the methods, how do you accurately count fish in such a huge ocean? It's a constant tension.
So this fishing community, this brotherhood, as the book calls it,
It's a real thing. Relatively small group, all the way from Florida up to Maine. Not really competitive amongst themselves in the way you might think.
their clubhouse is the ocean.
Yeah, they visit each other out at sea, like truckers at a rest stop. Or Liar's Saloon back in Montauk. That's another key spot.
But it's built on more than just socializing, right? It's that shared danger.
Absolutely. There's this deep, unwritten rule.
Yeah.
You always help another fisherman in trouble. Always. It's not just nice. It can be life-saving
And we definitely see that later on.
in a massive way. Yeah,
But the danger is always there. They know the risks.
intimately. The book mentions the loss of 2 fishermen on a boat that was basically a twin to the Anna Mary. Bodies never found.
Horrifying.
It's the kind of thing that made Cameron McClellan, a 6th-generation fisherman, just quit. Too much risk. He wanted a safer life.
Yet, for Johnny and Anthony, the pull is still stronger.
Yeah, it's the freedom, the adventure, the sea is always changing. It's like a treasure hunt every day.
That thrill of hitting the jackpot.
Hauling up traps full of lobsters.
Yeah.
That's the hook.
Okay, so let's get to the night everything changed. The Anna Mary set up for these long offshore trips, rebuilt inside, couple of bunks, galley, storage.
And famously, a bucket on deck instead of a proper toilet.
Right. And part of the routine is managing the cooling system for the catch tanks, pumping seawater in, recirculating.
It's a process. Closed-circuit system.
Yeah.
Have to adjust valves, cap off these discharge overflows. Takes concentration, especially when you're tired, offshore.
And on this particular night, Johnny's taking the first watch. He's alone in the wheelhouse. Anthony and Mike Migliaccio are asleep below.
Right. And around, say, 2:30, 3:00 in the morning, Johnny decides to get the tanks calibrated early.
So he goes out on deck.
Opens the center hatch, sets the valves, goes back to the wheelhouse to check the systems, then comes back out on deck to cap the discharge overflows.
And this is the critical moment, the coolers.
Yeah. 2 heavy coolers, packed with ice, sitting right on the hatch cover, blocking his way.
So he needs to move them.
And he grabs a long-handled box hook. One of those tools with a sharp metal hook.
Uh-huh. For grabbing ropes or handles.
Exactly. He hooks the handle of the bottom cooler to slide it out of the way.
And the handle breaks.
Snaps right off. And in that instant, he loses his balance, goes straight into the water.
Oh my God. Just like that.
Instant shock. He swallows seawater, flailing, gagging, starts screaming.
Anthony!
Just raw terror.
But the boat's motor.
Too loud. Nobody hears him. And the horrible realization hits him. Anna Mary is just steaming away, getting smaller, dimmer.
It must have felt completely unreal.
Totally. He thought this isn't happening.
Yeah.
Just absolute disbelief.
And the book really gets into his feeling about being in the ocean versus on it.
Yeah, that's such a powerful distinction. On his boat, on the ocean, he's at home, he's in control. But in the water, suddenly it's alien, unknown, completely uncontrollable.
Unlike Anthony, who's apparently comfortable in the water.
Right. For Johnny, it was this terrifying lack of power. Waves, currents, wind, weather, time, tide, high. He had zero control over any of it.
And for a split second, he thought about giving up.
Just letting go.
Yeah.
A fleeting, seductive thought. But it passed.
And he took stock. What did he have?
Not much. His heavy work boots, which, crucially, he realized trapped air and acted like pontoons.
It's amazing.
A small knife clipped to his shorts, his body, reasonably fit, and his brain, his mental strength. That became his main asset.
So hours go by. Dark, cold hours.
Yeah. Then, around 5:30, maybe 6 a.m., Mike Migliaccio wakes up, goes out on deck.
And Johnny's not there.
Not in the wheelhouse, not on deck, not like up in the mast checking a signal or something. Nowhere.
He wakes Anthony.
Yeah. In that moment, you can just feel the dread in the book's description. Anthony realizing he's not here. 6:22 a.m.
Just those 3 words.
Yeah.
Chilling. Imagine that offshore.
Unthinkable. But Anthony, despite the panic he must have felt, reacts immediately. Professionally.
Calls the Coast Guard, Channel 16.
Right. The call goes to Sean Davis, operations specialist at Sector Long Island Sound Command Center in New Haven, Connecticut. Davis feels that, not in the gut, goosebumps.
But he keeps calm for Anthony.
Has to. But Anthony gives him the worst possible news for a search.
I have no clue whatsoever of where he fell overboard or how many hours ago.
Exactly. No starting point. Could have been any time since 9 p.m. the night before.
So the Coast Guard response kicks in immediately.
Instantly, alarm goes out in the command center. Montauk Station activated. They identify cutters nearby the sailfish, the tiger shark.
Commander Jonathan Thiel requests a helicopter?
Yeah, from District HQ in Boston. And just minutes after the call, 6:30 a.m., Davis issues that universal maritime alert.
Pan, 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 asking all vessels to look out.
And the immediate search starts. Montauk Station sends out their 47-foot motor lifeboat, the Workhorse, CG 47279.
Under Josh Garsick, following the Anna Mary's track line back out.
Right, 6:35 a.m. they're underway. Later, Jason Walter, the station chief, goes out too in a smaller boat.
But the challenge is just the sheer scale, isn't it? Because they don't know when he fell overboard.
Exactly. That initial search area, based on the boat's movement from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., it was potentially massive.
Between 5 and maybe 60 nautical miles offshore, over 780 square miles.
It's staggering.
Yeah.
Bigger than half of Rhode Island. How do you even begin to search that effectively?
Almost impossible.
Yeah. So the Coast Guard has standard procedures, search patterns. Given the lack of info, they start with a basic trackline search and return TSR, like drawing a box around the boat's course.
But then there's Serapis.
Right. The search and rescue optimal planning system. This is key.
Okay, Serapis, it sounds high-tech. How does it actually help here?
It's incredibly sophisticated. It simulates drift, takes in data, wind, currents, water temp, even info about the person like clothing, and runs simulations.
To predict where he might be.
Exactly. It shows probable locations as these clusters of particles on a map. It turns that massive, vague area into zones of higher probability. It doesn't find the person, but it tells you where to look more intensely.
Marrying physics and data.
Yeah. It's predictive science. Massively increases the odds compared to just drawing boxes, especially, as we'll see, when you feed it better information.
And it gave them a timeline too, right? Survivability.
Yeah, that was sobering. For someone like Johnny Fitt, 5'9", 150 pounds, the simulation predicted a best-case survivability of maybe 19 hours before hypothermia would be fatal. Clothing helps, but still.
The clock was ticking loudly from the very start.
Absolutely.
So as the official search ramps up, the news is spreading like wildfire through Montauk.
Oh, yeah. The book calls it like drums in the jungle. Fishermen talking, radios crackling.
Charter guys canceling trips to join the search. Boats already out, changing course.
The word got around incredibly fast, even reached the tugboat guys in New York Harbor. Everyone was concerned.
And this is where that brotherhood really kicks in.
Massively. This volunteer fleet mobilizes. Over 23 boats, commercial guys, sport fishermen.
People who know these waters intimately.
Exactly. Deep local knowledge, their own comms network, and crucially, they know Johnny and Anthony personally. They care.
But that presents a challenge for the Coast Guard, right? Managing volunteers.
Huge challenge for Commander Thiel. These guys are invaluable eyes on the water, local knowledge. But they're not under Coast Guard command. How do you coordinate that? Liability issues, too.
But they were going anyway, that unwritten rule.
Absolutely. So they reached a compromise. Anthony, back on the Anna Mary, becomes the point person. Volunteers report sightings to him. He relays it to the Coast Guard.
While he and Mike Migliaccio are still searching themselves, Mike's up on the roof, scanning the waves.
Exhausting, desperate work for them.
Meanwhile, back on land, the families are getting the news.
Yeah, Johnny's sister, Kathy Patterson, gets the call from their dad, totally distraught. She just snaps into, like, business mode.
Drives straight to the Montauk Coast Guard station with her sister-in-law, Jillian. Police escort.
Imagine arriving there, seeing the command center, the big map with the search grid. The scale of it must have been overwhelming.
Her husband, Tommy, joins them. Friends, family start gathering at the station. Text messages pouring in.
And Kathy remembered that conversation with Johnny after their friend Chubby Gray was lost at sea. Johnny saying he'd fight like hell if it ever happened to him.
Wow, must have been both terrifying and a tiny bit of hope to cling to.
For sure. And similar scenes back in Oakdale, at the Aldridge parents' house.
Half of Oakdale gathered there, the book says, waiting with John Sr. and Addie.
People holding on to hope. Tony Vincente convinced Johnny's alive, just sitting on a buoy. Steve D'Amico talking about Johnny's mental toughness, remembering that dirt bike accident.
Where he hid the bike before getting help for his injury.
Yeah, that kind of stubborn focus. And Addie, his mom, believing he was a survivor from birth because of his difficult delivery, just clinging to anything.
And the Sosinski family, too. Anthony's daughters.
Yeah, Melanie gets that terrifying text, heard about your dad and Johnny, thinks it might be her father at first. Searches online, calls her sister Emma in Arizona. That wave of relief when they realize it's Johnny, not their dad. But then immediately followed by intense anxiety for Johnny and for their dad out there searching.
Because Johnny was like an uncle to them.
Exactly. Deep family bonds there.
But as the hours drag on, that initial hope starts to fray, doesn't it?
Yeah, you feel it in the descriptions.
Mhm.
George Watson at the dock, his confidence sinks. The waiting is just agonizing.
That awful limbo. What if they don't find him? What if they find him, but it's too late?
Those unspoken fears. How long can someone actually survive out there?
Yeah.
Even at the Coast Guard Center, the mood dips when the Sarek system briefly goes down. Suddenly they feel like they're flying blind again.
Just relying on standard patterns in that enormous search area.
A terrible feeling for them, too.
Okay, let's go back out to Johnny. He's in the water, fighting this battle.
Yeah, an internal battle as much as a physical one. Fighting despair, pain, forcing positive thoughts.
Pushing away the fear, the grief.
Dealing with the physical stuff, too. Sea lice stinging him, intense thirst, legs cramping up with Charlie horses.
But drawing on that fisherman's toughness.
Exactly. That ability to just put away pain and keep going. He's trying to swim towards a buoy he sees in the distance.
He even sees the search efforts at one point, right?
Yeah, he sees the Anna Mary searching, sees a helicopter overhead working a pattern. He's screaming, waving his arms like crazy.
But they don't see him.
Invisible.
Yeah.
So close, yet totally unseen. The frustration must have been immense.
But he keeps fighting, and eventually he reaches that first buoy.
Exhausted. But the relief.
Oh.
Oh, man, just holding on to something solid, not having to constantly fight to keep his head above water.
A huge psychological boost.
Absolutely. And then he gets this idea, sees another buoy nearby,
Uses his knife.
uses his small knife to cut some rope from the first buoy, swims over, and ties the two buoys together. Creates a sort of makeshift, stable platform.
That's incredible thinking under that kind of pressure.
Pure survival instinct and ingenuity. And using his boots, too.
Right. Filling them with water for warmth. How does that work?
Well, the trapped water gets warmed slightly by his body heat, providing a bit of insulation against the colder ocean. And they still provided flotation.
Amazing. So this platform gives him a better view.
Yeah, he can see boats, the helicopter, a bit better. He knows his legs are pretty much shot, totally spent. But he feels his core temperature is still okay. Just okay enough to maybe stay alive.
And he's fighting the mental battle.
Constantly. Arguing with himself. Too many people who love me, he keeps thinking. Can't give up. He even describes seeing visions of people who were gone, like his grandfather, a friend.
Like they were trying to tempt him to give in.
Yeah, like a mermaid waiting to take me down, he put it. He understood the word overwhelmed in a whole new way, literally fighting the ocean, trying to pull him under, and figuratively fighting the urge to give up.
While all this is happening, Anthony's back on the Anna Mary. Still searching, but also thinking.
Obsessively thinking.
Yeah.
Replaying everything. He starts noticing little details. The pumps, the discharge caps where the coolers were.
And the broken handle.
The broken handle. That's the key. He starts visualizing exactly what Johnny would have done to calibrate those tanks. The sequence of actions.
Moving the coolers.
Moving the coolers, the handle breaking, falling off the stern. And it hits him.
This must have happened much later.
Much later than 9 p.m. Probably in the early morning hours when he was actually doing that task.
Yeah.
Near a specific location, the 43600 Loran line. An old navigation coordinate, but one they still used offshore.
That is a huge breakthrough, coming from pure observation and deduction.
Fisherman's knowledge. Knowing the boat, knowing Johnny, knowing the routine, he immediately radios the Coast Guard. Speaks to Pete Winters.
Explains his theory. New time frame, new likely location.
And the Coast Guard listens. They get it. They understand the fisherman talk, the specifics he's giving them.
So Commander Theo?
Jonathan Theo orders Serops to be rerun immediately, using Anthony's new information, shifting the probability weighting significantly further south along the track line.
Narrowing the search area considerably.
Exactly. It's this perfect synergy. Advanced tech like Serops, refined by crucial human intelligence and local knowledge. Game changer.
Okay, so the search focus shifts. And up in the air.
The MH-60 Jayhawk crew from Air Station Cape Cod.
Mm-hmm.
Ray, Mike Deal, Ethan Hill, Bob Jamros. They've been searching for hours.
Fuel's getting low. They're approaching fatigue status.
Right. Getting near the end of their search leg. But Mike Deal speaks up.
He wants one more pass.
Yeah, he argues the conditions are perfect for searching light winds, good visibility. Just one last quick pattern based on that updated Serops info.
CDO Averill approves it.
Approves a short pattern.
Yeah.
South-southeast, then north,
Then.
north-northwest, right through that newly prioritized area.
And as they're flying this new pattern.
They spot something. Something irregular, unexpected, not normal.
It's him! Johnny on the buoys.
Unbelievable moment. They found him.
The helicopter maneuvers in.
Bob Jamrose, the rescue swimmer, is lowered down. Reaches Johnny, gets him secured in the harness.
And they hoist him up.
Yeah. And Johnny's state, he's dehydrated, cold, face swollen, sunburned, but he's just beaming. Absolutely euphoric.
Wild with excitement, psyched.
Totally. And when the crew apologizes for not flying him straight back to Montauk, he just says,
I don't give a shit where you take me.
classic Johnny. Made the crew laugh. He even apparently said it wasn't so bad.
Which he later regretted saying.
Yeah, especially when he landed at Cape Cod and saw the ambulance, the crowd, realizing the sheer scale of the effort made to find him. It hit him then.
Physically, he was in rough shape, though.
Oh, yeah. Couldn't walk. His thighs were raw from the rope between the buoys, leg muscles completely seized up, core temp down to 94 degrees Fahrenheit.
Straight to the hospital.
Where apparently the initial care wasn't exactly 5-star, wheeled into a hallway, then ended up in a storage closet for a bit.
Seriously?
Yeah, but even there he managed to talk to a reporter from Newsday, starting to get his story out.
So, as he's being rescued, how does the news break back on land?
Sean Davis, the command center, gets the word. They got him! Cheers erupt in New Haven.
Mark Averill confirms it, tells Theo.
And Theo calls Kathy Patterson, tells the news, asks us to sort of wait just a few minutes before spreading it wide.
But the fishing network is faster.
Way faster. Uncle Jimmy gets a text from another retired cop almost simultaneously. The word is out.
And the reaction?
Just overwhelming relief. Cheering, crying, hugging. Kathy's drive up to Cape Cod with Jillian, Tommy, Teresa, totally chaotic, no cash, low on gas, taking ferries, but just lightheaded with relief. Didn't matter.
And Anthony Sosinski, how did he find out?
His daughter Emma called him on the boat just as he was heading back into Montauk Harbor with the Anna He just broke down. Mike Scarimbus, one of the volunteers who heard it over the radio on his boat, just said, eyeballed.
That collective weightlifting.
Huge. Immense relief for everyone involved, especially the volunteer fleet who'd searched so hard.
Johnny gets home the next day.
Yeah. Anthony visits him that night. That quick, understated exchange. You okay? I'm okay. That's all they needed.
Gets his fantasy hamburger the next day.
Finally. And Lori Zapolsky comes by the house. Just says, I need a hug. Captures that shared feeling, you know.
There were celebrations, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Impromptu stuff at the Aldridge house. A bigger party later in Montauk. And the Coast Guard held a ceremony honoring their crew's devotion to duty, but also specifically acknowledging the huge role the volunteers played.
Because it really was a team effort.
Absolutely. Couldn't have happened without every single piece.
But even with the happy ending, there's a lasting impact, isn't there? Trauma.
Definitely. John Aldridge Sr., Johnny's dad, still had nightmares. And Anthony Sosinski, he says it's branded in his mind. Not one day goes by he doesn't think about it. PTSD symptoms affected others too.
But interestingly, not Johnny himself.
Not in the same way. He says he doesn't have nightmares or flashbacks. His theory is because he lived through the whole thing beginning, middle, end in real time, his brain processed it differently.
Makes sense. No way.
He keeps the boots, though. The boots that saved him. He reflects a lot on that mental battle, how hard it really was, despite maybe downplaying it initially.
And he's become a spokesperson.
Yeah, for boat safety, for SAR success. Shares his story with Coast Guard recruits, other groups, uses his experience.
And then there was the later accident.
Yeah, losing part of a finger in a pothauler accident on the Anna years later. A stark reminder that the danger is always there in that job. His survival story became part of who he and Anthony are known for.
It really is more than just an accident story, isn't it?
So much more. It's about, well, the resilience of the human spirit, that inner fight against total despair when you have nothing left.
It's about the Coast Guard, too. That vital work they do, often unseen, always ready, highly trained, using incredible tech, but also pure dedication.
Absolutely.
Oof.
And maybe most powerfully, it's about community. Those bonds, especially among fishermen, dropping everything, risking their own safety to help one of their own. That network. Yeah. It's incredibly powerful.
That final quote from Sean Davis at the Coast Guard sums it up well.
Yeah. We were determined that we would not quit till we found him, and he kept himself alive long enough for us to do so. It took both sides. His fight, their search.
And it even became a song, The Tale of Johnny Load.
A local legend, immortalized in music.
So this story, it's not just about surviving the ocean. It's about that inner strength we find, maybe unexpectedly, and it's about those outer connections, family, friends, community, dedicated professionals.
Yeah, those connections can literally be the difference between life and death, which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? It leaves you thinking, what unexpected reserves of strength do you think you might find in a crisis? And maybe just as important, where might your community show up for you in ways you never expected?
Something to definitely think about. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive.